All right, we are live. Welcome to another Fireside chat with Suffer Six, and I'm very pleased to have Henrik with us today. Let me just see if I can bring out the banner stuff. So, the whole structure with the Fireside chats is we basically uh, informally chat about everything that comes to regarding SEO in this case, search engine optimization, and we just came out of a workshop for our members, but as always, we want to make sure that whatever expertise and insights that you have is available also for those who might not be members. So that's why we think it's so important to do those fireside chats because it's not just exclusive knowledge for our members, even though on the workshop we obviously could dissect specific topics or companies. But in this case, we can, like in broader terms, talk about general stuff and hopefully provide some good value for the viewers and the one viewer we have right now. So, uh,
So,
hi, mom. So let's get started. We have Henrik with us today. You are founder and CEO of Pixel Nordic, SEO consultancy firm that are growing really fast. Won several awards. You're working with Naked. You're working with Tree. Some of the uh, heavyweight companies that really are growing thanks to their online presence. Give us a quick update on who you are and what you've done.
sure. Been working within SEO for 15 years on different type of both like startups, a lot of e-commerce. E-commerce is for e-commerce SEO is super important. So obviously a lot of e-commerce, but also a lot of startups like growing fast and with in many markets. Like startups is super important for the SEO. Getting a lot of SEO traffic is super important. So and background from KTH and a bit of management consulting, so a bit of broad background, but primarily within SEO and online marketing. So all the SEO and online marketing related questions, shoot, because happy to answer.
That's a good point. So if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to shoot our way, it's not this often that you get Henrik's full attention. So if you have any question, thoughts, just write it in the comment section, either on Facebook or LinkedIn. We should be able to see it here from the dashboard within StreamYard. And just like this comment, I don't know who you are, but thanks for writing in. So this is how it looks. We'll share the question with everyone, and then hopefully we can or Henrik can share some thoughts around that specific topic. So really good to have you here, Henrik, again. What did you think about the workshop? Like, is there like a lot of it became a little bit technical? What do you
Yeah,
think?
it's fun with these startups with so many different like challenges. Like some are ranking within like holidays and some within crypto, and like they're obviously have different challenges, but there's a lot of similarities as well. So I think really good workshop, good questions, and I think like we managed to digest like what a startup should do to actually get some attention and get SEO traffic.
Yeah, and I think it was really valuable. I haven't seen the reviews yet, but I'm assuming it was a valuable session for everyone. We're going to share some of the things that I wrote down from that session, and also like in general. Uh, the difference for many is that when you're doing SEO as a traditional company, you might have larger budget, right? But when you're a startup, you're on a cutthroat budget.
Yeah.
You need to be way smarter than your competitors. So what's your general best practices to really hack SEO in best possible way with a very limited budget?
Yeah. In general, you can do a lot within SEO, quite easy and quite cheap. Like just running a super small Google Ads campaign generates a lot of insights into what keywords are important. And then building content. Often you want to build content for other reasons, to actually get the users to convert when they come to your site. So there's a lot of like, and also doing like PR is going to help your SEO. So SEO integrates with a lot of the content you're building on your site, the Google Ads you're testing out and testing keywords, the PR and content marketing, influencer marketing you're doing. So I think SEO can piggyback a lot of the other things a startup is doing, and like that helps the SEO traffic as well. So that's why I think, like, as a startup, generally you don't need SEO consultants, at least not in the beginning. You can do do a lot yourselves, because if you're doing PR yourselves, make sure you get a link. If you're doing writing content on your site, make sure you see what content do our users actually search for. So you don't write 100 content pieces all on the same topic. You actually write them on separate topics, so you can be visible for more than just one.
Yeah, I think many people also confuse SEM with SEO. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what SEO is and how you could do way better to get exposure on search engines?
Yep. And so SEO is basically the organic part, the non-ads part. So you can't pay Google to be visible more on the normal search listings. So the SEM is the ads, the Google ads, or the search engine ads. So I think like integrating that, so testing out strategies within SEM, testing out keywords, and then long term seeing what keywords you want to rank for organically and in the regular search results with SEO. It's a good way to a good strategy.
Yeah, and that's one of the best kept secrets out there. It's like but one of the simplest ways to get good understanding of where your audience are and what you're doing, because for startups you might not really know exactly how you will solve the problem for your customer. You might tweak the service and the product down the road.
Yeah.
And it makes it even more important to do a lot of testing, right, and figure out what actually works. So I think that you talked a little bit about that during the session. Do we just want to mention A/B testing? Let's assume that the audience understand what that means, that you're doing different tests in a more scientific manner to get better understanding of where your target audience are, what they care about, and what they click on, because that's like some of the best validations of what you're doing, if it makes sense. So do we just want to mention something regarding that?
Yeah, generally it's quite hard to A/B test like what organic keyword to rank for. So that's why I generally recommend the paid ads part. So trying to buy the keyword, buying 100 clicks from one keyword from another, and sending them to different landing pages and seeing how they convert. So what type of content that the users want. So and then when you see that, then you form a more long-term strategy, because SEO is basically long-term. You're not going to see the results within a couple of days. So testing out with ads and then feeding that into the long-term. So generally, there's not that much A/B testing within SEO going on. But when you have a page, a content piece with a lot of traffic, then you can definitely A/B test how do we get these visitors to convert better, like changing the landing page, changing the structure. But I wouldn't change large parts of the content, because then you can actually, if you remove a lot of the content to make the conversion a little bit better, then you will probably lose a bit of that traffic you're getting.
Yeah. So. You talked a lot about linking and you mentioned that that's like the key thing when it comes to SEO. Do you want to share what you mean with that, and why is links so important for
Yeah.
SEO?
So generally, how Google is built on an algorithm called PageRank. So actually ranking pages based on how many links and how good those links are. So that's the core of how Google was built back in 1990. And so that you really need to get good pages to link to your site to be able to rank in Google. And as Google has 90% plus market share, that's the main search engine. So getting good links to your site, good newspapers, blogs, influencers, your the media that's writing within your niche, getting them to link to you is going to help you guys a lot if you want to be able to rank on in Google.
Yeah, and also that is important. Like it gets more and more popular to do content marketing or influencer marketing, right? And I think it's important to also talk about, even in those cases, um, when you're doing videos and or you have influencers that talking about your product on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. How do you convert that into relevance in your SEO
Yeah.
strategy?
Yeah, so generally, like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook links to your site, it's not going to help your rankings in Google. They are competitors to Google, so Google doesn't really look at those type of links. But so if you want to get links to be able to rank better in Google, you will need links from regular websites or blogs. Get it, if an influencer or a TikTok profile has a blog as well, then if you get a link there from their site, then it's actually going to help you out. But if they only link in Instagram or TikTok, or it's not going to help you basically. So always asking like, do you also have a regular blog or website where you can link to us or reference us?
Yep. Uh, so so what that basically means is that you can work, like obviously on those platforms you can natively convert to your products or services. So it's like obviously an alternative way to convert customers, get brand awareness and call to actions for your target audience. But when it comes to SEO, it doesn't really add any value at all. So
Yeah,
that's your main point.
yeah,
Another thing that also was surprising to me that you talked about was loading time. I was like convinced that if you just have a good millisecond conversion or loading time, you get way better ranking. But then you said like that's all bullshit. It doesn't matter.
yeah.
Could you share some more thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Google has been pushing a lot for pages to improve their loading times and telling people that it's huge ranking factors. But when you're actually testing it out and talking with and seeing what the people that actually knows what the ranking factors are in Google, they say that it's a super small ranking factor. So having a really good loading time is not actually going to help your SEO. It's going to be good for your users, of course, and your conversion rate, but getting those milliseconds better than your competitors is not going to help you within your SEO ranking. It's still going to have like great content is much more important, and actually having good relevant links to your site is much more important. And for Google to be able to index and crawl your site is much more important. So I think it's one of the most overrated aspects within SEO. It's not 100% irrelevant, but probably 99% irrelevant.
Yeah, yeah. So as a startup, when you're struggling to think about where should I spend my time,
Yeah,
if loading time is key to your user experience, yes, of course, loading time is important. But it's clear now for me, at least, that from an SEO point of view and page ranking point of view, it doesn't matter.
no, no,
That's quite interesting.
yeah,
Uh, Another thing that you talk about is how JavaScript heavy sites are failing to get good exposure. Could you talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you should have server-side rendering. Now we're getting a little bit more technical, but I think it makes sense. I think it's fine. If anyone is listening and have and think that we're like going too deep, then just reach out and let us know, and then we can maybe step it up and talk in more general terms. But we're diving in here because I think some of you out there would really value us doing a little bit more technical discussion here. So server-side rendering, you mentioned, that's a smart thing if you have JavaScript heavy websites.
Yeah. So a lot of startups and a lot of new websites are very heavy within JavaScript, and they rely a lot on client-side rendering. So basically having the client, the visitor's website, build the page, build the HTML code. And that Google can do that, but it's very, very resource intensive. So if you have a client-side rendering on your site, you're not going to rank that well within Google in general, and they're going to have difficulties visiting your site. And a lot of modern new websites gonna have that problem. It's quite easy to test. It's just checking the source code. If there's like your browser is outdated, then you probably have a client-side rendered website. If you have the HTML code and the content in the like source code, then it's gonna be like server-side rendering. So having server-side rendering for Google is very important because it's so resource intensive for them to render in client side, and they also have a lot of problems. Like one small error can basically break the whole site, and then they won't be able to see. So server-side rendering is often quite easy to implement and very underrated.
Yep, awesome. That's a really good point. On that topic of what's going on the client side, there's an increased usage of ad blockers. That, like, I guess the most common way is having a plugin that basically blocks a lot of scripts and tracker pixels and all that stuff. What do you think on that topic? Is this a threat to SEO, or is does it make Google blind? Do you see where I'm coming from? And what's the latest trends?
Yeah, so generally, like ads, Google doesn't really want to count ads. If you have a lot of ads and get links from them, they don't really want to count them. So Google works similar to like what an ad blocker does. They remove the ads and see like, okay, what is the content without the ads, and what are the links without ad tags. So that's why, like, doing links, you need them to be like natural and within the content, not like a sponsored ad within a banner, because then it's not going to help you out. So I would say doesn't really affect SEO that much, the ad blockers or not. But when you do try to get links, try to get them as natural and native as possible, and not within like just a banner ad, because that's not going to help you that much.
Okay, got it. So in terms of SEO, it's not as impactful. Is that what you're saying? Yep, got it. You talked a little bit about some tools, and you even did some demos on which tools you recommend for SEO. And this is obviously not for like the purpose of those tools is not for those who are searching to become an SEO expert. Like, this is for startups. You have 2,000 other things to focus on as well. But what are the key things that, like, okay, those are very simple and useful tools when looking to get better exposure and compete for attention online?
Yeah, so there's 3 different tools I mentioned. The first one is Google Keyword Planner. So actually, and Google Ads. So actually trying to research your search behavior and creating ads for those, doing SEM. So that's actually going to help you find what topics that are relevant. So that's the first thing I would do, is to test out the topics and the keywords that you're and see what they are. And the second tool I mentioned is Google Search Console, which has gotten a lot better in the last couple of years. You can actually see what keywords you are driving traffic on, where you are ranking, and a lot. You can see a lot of valuable information. Also, how Google is indexing your site, how often, what pages they have found, what pages they think are broken. So Google Search Console is super useful, and it's free. So I
Got
think
it.
everyone.
So Google Keyword Planner, Google
uh,
Search Console.
Yeah, and the third tool, which is more of like, okay, when you have found the keywords you want to rank for with the Google Ads, Google Keyword Planner, and monitor with the Google Search Console, to actually like do a competitor analysis to see what your competitors are getting links from, to see what keywords they are driving traffic on. I use a tool called Ahrefs, so like the link tag.com. And there you can see a lot of this information and yeah, do a really good audit. But it's quite expensive, but they have a free, it's like 7-day trial. So try that
Yeah.
out, do some analysis. I don't think you're probably not going to need to pay for it each month, but just to do a quick analysis, I think it's really good to sign up and just try it out.
So can you use the Ahrefs solution? Can you go there and then basically just rip a lot of stats out of it for the first 7 days and then just unsubscribe?
Yeah, I think I haven't done it myself, but I think that's possible. Like just checking out your top 3 competitors, downloading their top links. I think you can probably do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
But, yeah, and also what keywords they are getting their visibility and traffic on.
Yeah, and you mentioned that during the workshop that you can get the keywords and see what they're searching on, but also you can see the actual links and the content that is driving that traffic, right?
Yeah. So
That was pretty cool to see that you can actually see not just like the effects or the traffic stats, but also the actual way those posts have been made or the content has been created.
Yeah, so they actually crawl the website, the whole web, just as Google does, and index all of the links in the whole web. So that's why they can provide this information. So they just similar to how Google works, they crawl it and see like, okay, these 700 pages link to your site, and then you can reverse engineer like what type of content did they produce to get those links, what type of PR did they do, what journalists did they reach out to get those links. So it's quite easy to reverse engineer a competitor in a specific market.
Nice. Yeah, we had another mention say, hi, Jonas. I don't know who Jonas is in this case, but hi to Jonas as well. Final words. I think it's if you want to wrap it up and share like, okay, I'm just getting into it. What are the top 3 things I should do to make sure I get as good exposure as possible on Google?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is like finding the keywords you want to rank for. Do you want to rank for machine learning algorithms within this segment? Yeah, right. Create great content. So like great text content, like articles and guides around that topic is going to help a lot. So great text content, and then getting actual links to your site through corporations, to PR, through sponsored posts or influencer marketing, like making sure that people are linking to your site and your content. That's super important. And also checking Google Search Console, like does Google, can they read my site? Can they actually see the content? Yeah, that's one of the key things, like creating great content, getting really good links, and making sure that Google can read your site.
Yep. Great content, links to site, check Google Search Console to make sure that I'm getting the exposure I believe I should get. That's awesome. Like the last thing I wanted to bring up is what like you're obviously your livelihood and the whole thing is you working with customers to help them get exposure. But for startups, like it doesn't always make sense to get that type of consultancy support. That's why we're doing those things. So startup doesn't have to invest a lot of money in it. Like, but when does it make sense to hire an SEO consultant?
In general, when you're scaling and you don't have if you have someone working with content, someone working with PR, basically you need someone to align those, and either if that's internal SEO competence, but that can also be like an external with a consultant. So, and I think one of the key things is like when you find out that SEO is like going to be super important, then you're probably going to need some way to get some feedback. And like SEO, there's no like simple answers, and so that's why it's often good to talk with someone else. Like, okay, we're thinking of doing this within this market. Is that a good way? Could we tweak it? Because sometimes you find out, oh, maybe we don't need 100 content pieces for this. We only need 5.
Yep.
That's good insight before you start creating 100 content pieces. So
Yep.
when you're trying to scale it, so the first steps, creating content, getting good links, you can probably do yourself. But when you're gonna, okay, we've reached this, but now we want to tenfold it again, then it's probably good to get some advice.
Yep. That makes sense. I'm thinking, by the way, what's your, is it pixel.se if people want to reach out also?
Yeah, it's pixel.se and Henrik at pixel.se. So feel free to email me if you have any like SEO related questions. It's always fun to help out the startup and the startup community with SEO advice, because like that's basically where our growth is coming from in Sweden. So I think it's important to help out.
Awesome. Henrik, again, thanks so much for taking time. I'm running out of voice now. I can feel it's not COVID. I've done tests, FYI, but I've talked a lot now, so I think I'm gonna drink some water and relax my voice. Henrik, have a great evening, and thanks for joining the workshop and doing this fireside chat.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for a good workshop.
My pleasure. And thanks those who tuned in. We'll do more of those. Stay tuned on our socials. Have a great day, everyone. See you.
Thanks.
Bye.